I'm Barney Saltzberg. I'm an author, I'm an illustrator, and I am a singer-songwriter. And this is kind of an amazing place to be standing right now because this is a building that my father bought in Los Angeles when I was a little kid in the 60s, and he sold shoe leather. And when I graduated art school and came to LA to play music, I started to work for my father because I felt the obligation of being the one person in the family that could take over his business. And it wasn't meant for me to be a shoe leather salesman. And so to be here now with my art from all of my children's books, which happened because I was actually taking a night class when I worked for my dad because I was going a little crazy. And they said, there's a great children's book writing class. And I said, I'm not really interested in children's books. I wanted to do just art. And I took the class from Barbara Botner, who was my teacher at Otis Art Institute, and sold my first book that summer. And it changed my life, and I quit working for my dad. So to be here now, I was 24, 25, at 64. A few things have happened since then, and I hope to show you some of the art. While I was in New York, I actually sold a book of visual puns, which was called Utter Nonsense. There's an alley right outside this building, and if you go to the end of it and make a left, I lived in an apartment above a garage. And at 5 o'clock, I would bolt out of this building and go to my studio in my house and draw this book. And these are line drawings, all done with rapidograph pens, and I haven't seen them in a long time. They've been in the drawer, so it's kind of fun to see them out and about. So this is a book that was kind of in reaction to working in a children's bookstore and seeing people balking at price tags. And I wanted to do a black and white book, which would make it a little cheaper to print. And I love the concept that a yawn gets passed through a town. And ultimately, at the end, yawns and gets it to the moon after it was passed to some aliens who landed and an entire planet yawned. So it was a fun book, and I think we sold 3 copies. So one of the things I do love about picture books is I never know where ideas are going to come from. And my father had a wonderful relationship with all of his grandchildren, but one in particular, Ella, and he would have tea. Ella lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and my dad lived in LA. And the trick was drawing a book with 2 people who are talking but not in the same space and not wanting to give that secret away. I wasn't able to sell the book until I added a dog and a cat, and that way there was eye contact between the characters and something more interesting to look at. And they actually became a subplot in the story because they are trying to get the tea and the cupcakes, and they ultimately end up getting some as well at the end. But you do find out at the end of the story that they are on Skype. This is a great place for a hot dog stand. The title, my father would say that whenever there was a crowd. We could be at a wedding, a funeral, in line for the movies, and he would always say, this is a great place for a hot dog stand. So I named the character after my dad, Izzy, and these were all done in watercolor, really bright watercolors. And I was really also inspired by the Charlie Chaplin movie, Modern Times, where he worked in a factory. And his job is to work in a factory painting baby beastie horns on, and he was kind of miserable and smelled a hot dog one day and decided he wanted to start a hot dog stand. And it's a story about his search for the perfect spot. This is clearly my inner child and my sense of humor. He does everything in his own way. He's using the bathroom. He's gotten in his pajamas. His clothes are on, but they're on the counter. He just has a different way of thinking, and he was a fun character. All acrylic and sloshed on and fun to make. I was taught a concept from Maurice Sendak, who talked about illuminating. You can illustrate text and you can illuminate text. There's a lot of people that can draw and paint much better than me, but what I kind of learned from the Sendak philosophy is, what can you add to the story with your art? One of my early books where I implemented the Sendak philosophy of illumination was Mrs. Morgan's Lawn. And this is based on a true story, which is my neighbor growing up in LA did not like children playing out in front. If their ball went onto her lawn, she would come outside and take it. And it became just sort of this battle. There's a line in the book that says somewhere inside of her house must be a closet full of balls. And I drew in what we call a book dummy, a closet full of balls when I submitted this book. And my editor said, "You told me that there's a closet full of balls, why draw it?" And this is where the illumination comes in. Same text, somewhere inside of her house must be a closet full of balls. What could you do with all of them? And Mrs. Morgan is a witch, reading a book that says great ball recipes and cooking them. It doesn't say that, but the marriage of words and images is what makes a really good picture book sing.